4 spine-chilling night shift encounters, terrifying tales of the cursed and sinister revealed. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced across the shelves of the small convenience store. Inside Willow Creek Center, the air was thick with the staleness of popcorn and half-hearted laughter. Yet, amid that normalcy, Jenna felt an unsettling dread creeping into her bones. As a single mother, she'd taken this late-night shift thinking it would bring her stability, a simple solution to her financial burdens. But with every passing hour, the atmosphere shifted from mundane to sinister. As she restocked the snack aisle, she noticed a man lurking near the frozen section, a middle-aged figure, his thinning hair slicked back, his gaze distant. He paced the aisles, muttering names under his breath: Johnson, Matthews, Connolly. The names were familiar, whispers of unsolved cases that rested uneasily in the back of her mind. Jenna's heart raced as the realization struck her. He was tied to the shadows of their quiet community, the ghostly remnants of people who had vanished without a trace. "Hey, you need something?" she called out, her voice shaky. He turned to her, a bemused smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. A chill ran down her spine. She wanted to turn away, to forget, but his gaze pinned her in place, almost as if he was digging into her very soul. Days morphed into weeks. Each shift heightened her fears, accentuated by her daughter Lila's restless nights filled with strange sounds outside their home. Jenna would sit up, heart pounding, listening to what sounded like low whispers carried by the wind. She begged Lila to stay in bed, fighting back her own panic, but deep down, Jenna knew this wasn't just childhood imagination. As her concerns grew, she summoned the courage to report her fears to the local police. But dismissal was all she got. "You're just tired, ma'am. We're sure it's nothing." They chuckled, patronizing, leaving her to feel weak, paranoid. How could she protect Lila if nobody believed her? That night was the worst yet. Jenna's heart raced as she made her way home, each scrape of her boots on the pavement echoing. She couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching, eyes hidden within the familiar faces next door. And yet, the true nightmare began with a single encounter. During her shift, the man appeared again, stepping closer, his smile widening into something almost predatory. "They see you, Jenna? They've always seen you." His voice, half-whispered, sent tingles of fear racing through her veins. She could feel the tickling terror wrap around her throat, suffocating her reason. The shelves seemed to close in. The lights blinked as the store morphed into a labyrinth of fear. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Your daughter could be next," he continued, twirling a candy bar in his hands like it was a weapon. Panic clawed at Jenna's throat as realization hit. The names he whispered were not just familiar, they were connected to the very disappearances that haunted Willow Creek. She stepped back, breath catching, instincts screaming to protect Lila. "Stay away from my family," Jenna shouted, desperate. As his smile faltered for a heartbeat, the lights flickered furiously, plunging her into uncanny darkness for a split second, then returning to reveal his figure closer, as if he had never moved. Was it a trick of the mind? Or was there something more sinister lurking in their quaint little town? Jenna knew one thing: she had to uncover the truth before the whispers turned to screams. Time was running out. Would she escape the clutches of her own community? Or would the sinister forces rewrite her narrative forever? The fluorescent lights buzzed, a frantic hum that felt like an omen. Jenna's breath came quick and shallow as she surveyed the store, expecting the man to materialize at any moment. Time felt warped. Each second stretched into hours, and anxiety gnawed at her insides. She clenched the stock clipboard like it was a shield, a flimsy barrier against the rising tide of dread. The shadows seemed thicker now, almost sentient, ready to swallow her whole. Every creak of the floor sounded like a whisper trailing through her mind, reminding her of the names he had muttered, names woven into the dark fabric of their town's tragic history. "Keep it together," she whispered, fighting the urge to flee. Lila was at home, probably asleep in her bed, blissfully unaware of the growing darkness wrapping around them. Jenna had to get to her. Each minute felt like a phantom echo of all those who'd vanished. Not knowing if she could trust the world she thought she knew. A sudden crash from the back of the store jolted her. The sound sliced through the thick air, an alarming reminder that the night was far from over. Heart racing, she kicked into instinct, sprinting toward the sound. Everyone assumed convenience stores were safe, filled with absurd candy choices and fizzy drinks, but there was something inherently unsettling about the glistening rows of polish and emptiness. When Jenna rounded the corner, her breath hitched in her throat. The man loomed over the fallen shelves, the candy he had been toying with now littered across the floor, like a graveyard of sugary folly. A tremor ripped through her fingers as she realized with horror that he was not alone. "Jenna!" His voice slithered through the space between them, warm and wet, dripping with suggestion. She felt the air chill. He pointed toward a door behind the shelves. It was a door that had always been locked, hidden behind years of dust and neglect. "They want you to join them." The utterance froze her in place as panic flooded her senses. An overwhelming instinct to resist surged within. She fought back against the urge to turn and run. "What are you talking about?" Jenna demanded, trying to sound strong against the onslaught of terror. "Those who disappeared, they know the truth." "They're waiting," he said, his eyes gleaming with an unsettling spark of madness. "And they want to show you. Just like they showed me." He gestured wildly towards the door, as if hoping to ensnare her with his erratic movements. Jenna shook her head, desperately trying to push the horror away. "I want to go there." She turned and darted back the way she came, adrenaline fueling her escape. Each step felt like concrete, as if the ground hoped to reclaim her. She stumbled into the aisles, urging her legs to move faster, but the lights flickered again, low, then bright, and with every blink, the odd sensation of being watched returned, heavier this time. "Run!" A voice screeched from somewhere deep within her mind, the command thrumming along her spine. She didn't look back as she barreled toward the exit. The door swung open, and as she stepped outside, the air felt frigid against her skin, almost alive, breathing. "Mommy!" A little voice called from the dark. "Lila!" Panic crashed like a wave. She darted toward the sound, arms outstretched. Jenna whipped around, heart hammering as she scanned the empty street, shadows dancing under the streetlights. But the terrified eyes of her daughter were there, wide and waiting. "Get inside," Jenna commanded, grasping Lila's hand, ready to sprint back to the safety of their home. But the night seemed to shudder, something lurking just beyond her vision, and every instinct urged her to check behind them. Just one more moment. Behind her, the figure was gone. Only the wind howled, a haunting echo of laughter that twisted unnaturally in the darkness. But she could still feel it, the weight of eyes watching them, waiting for the perfect moment. As they raced home, Lila tugged at her arm. "Mommy, what is happening?" Jenna felt the fear simmering under the surface, threatening to bubble over. She wasn't ready to tell her daughter about the murderous ghosts of Willow Creek. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just stick close to me." But as they reached the door, she understood that door behind the store wouldn't stay closed forever. The calls of the lost were growing louder. What would she uncover when it finally creaked open? And when would the next name become hers? The nightmare wasn't over. It had only just begun. Inside their home, Jenna slammed the door shut, throwing the lock with a fierce determination. Her heart pounded as if trying to hammer its way out of her chest. Lila clung to her leg, eyes wide and brimming with innocent terror. The shadows in the corners of the small living room loomed larger, twisting into grotesque shapes against the dim light. Each flicker from a nearby candle cast haunting figures that felt more alive than inanimate. "Mommy!" Lila's voice shook, pulling Jenna from the depths of her fears. "Are we safe here?" Jenna knelt beside her, forcing a smile that felt foreign. "We're safe, sweetheart," she whispered, but doubt slithered through her mind. She could almost hear the whispers of the lost ones from the store. They were out there, and the man, he had drawn something darker out into the open. They circled the living room like a pair of nervous animals. The storm outside now howled against the windows, slapping rain against the panes as if trying to break through. Jenna's heart quickened with the knowledge that the storm was not their only danger. "Let us get some blankets," she said, hoping to soothe Lila's frayed nerves. As she moved toward the closet, shadows flickered in the hallway, a fleeting reminder that danger still lurked beyond the sanctuary of their four walls. "Mommy!" Lila called out, her voice trembling. "Look!" She pointed toward the window. Jenna turned, her breath hitching as she followed her daughter's gaze. Outside, a figure stood just beyond the streetlight's reach, an unyielding silhouette against the rain-soaked pavement. It shifted, as if watching them, waiting. "Get back!" Jenna shouted, pushing Lila behind her. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears, drowning out the wind's fury. The figure took a step closer, a glimmer of recognition striking Jenna. It was the man. He had followed them. The door rattled, sending a jolt of adrenaline through Jenna. "No!" she screamed, racing to the door, bracing herself against it as the pounding continued heavy, insistent. "Get to the back," she ordered Lila, who obeyed without hesitation. "Mommy!" Lila called again, her voice cracked like ice under pressure. "Just go!" The door shuddered again, the wood groaning as if alive. With every impact, Jenna felt the weight of all the lost souls pushing against it, demanding entrance, demanding her attention. "Let me in." The voice echoed, deep and low. "I can help you." The man's words oozed into the room, curling around Jenna like smoke. She felt the weight of his promise, a clandestine familiar echoing in her mind, the same promise that had lured countless others into the depths of his madness. "No. Get away!" She pressed her palms against the door, as if it was a barrier against the horrors that wanted her. But doubt crept in, clawing at the edges of her resolve. A sudden crash came from the back of the house, a loud thud that reverberated through the floor, as if something had broken in. Ice sifted through Jenna's veins. There was no way to protect her daughter if these two forces converged. "Mommy, please!" Lila's frightened face appeared in the doorway, eyes glistening with tears. "Don't let them take me!" Panic ignited. She spun to grab her daughter, pulling her close. "We have to leave. Now!" They rushed toward the back door, terror fueling their flight. But the air thickened, charged with unseen energy. The shadows blurred, stretching impossibly as an icy gust whipped through the house. Jenna dared to glance back one last time. The man stood there, the darkness enveloping him. "Join us, Jenna, you can't escape. You will see the truth." In that heart-stopping moment, the door swung open by itself. The cold night air poured in, howling like a banshee, making it impossible to resist its call. With no time left, Jenna lunged through the door with Lila in tow, plunging into the unknown. They stumbled into the night, just as a chorus of voices rang out, soft and inviting, a tempest of whispers threading through the wind, enticing, bewitching. As they bounded across the threshold, Jenna's thoughts screamed that the door had opened. But which door remained? And would she and Lila be able to walk through before it slammed shut forever? The shadows beckoned once more, the past still crying, rippling through the darkness. What horrors awaited them at the end of this desperate escape? The icy wind ripped at their skin as Jenna and Lila stumbled further into the night. Each step felt like it dragged them deeper into a world that was foreign and hostile. The rain poured down, blurring the lines between reality and nightmares, soaking their clothes and chilling their bones. "Mommy, where are we going?" Lila's small voice trembled, breaking through the cacophony of rain and wind. Jenna scanned their surroundings, searching for any sign of safety, but all that met her gaze were the towering shadows of trees that clawed at the dark sky like skeletal fingers. "Just keep moving." Jenna's response was shaky, fear gnawing at her insides. The road stretched before them, winding through the blackened woods, every whisper of the wind a warning that danger was close. They hurried along, praying for a sign, a beacon. Instead, the darkness thickened around them, wrapping tightly, almost suffocating. Jenna halted, scanning the shadows, hearing the distinct crunch of gravel behind them. Mommy! Lila clutched her leg tighter, her breaths coming in rapid gasps. When Jenna turned, dread pooled in her stomach. A faint glow emerged in the distance, flickering in and out like a dying star. Could it be a house? But a gnawing instinct warned her. In that moment, she recognized one haunting truth: some lights only led to more darkness. Stay close, she murmured, yanking Lila alongside her as they approached the glow. Closer, the light morphed into an old, decrepit gas station. Its sign, a rusted relic of the past, groaned under the wind like an aging man. Jenna hesitated at the threshold. The windows were smeared with grime, shadows shifting behind the glass, teasing her sanity. Should we go in? Lila whispered, her voice thin and fragile, filled with a child's instinct for safety. I don't know, Jenna stammered, each heartbeat pounding in time with the terror swelling inside her. But the sound of footsteps behind them shattered any illusions of safety on the road. They had to decide. With a steely breath, she pushed open the glass door, the hinges creaking like bones. The scent of stale cigarettes and something rotten hit them like a wave. Jenna shielded Lila's eyes from the sight of the dingy interior. Stay close, she whispered again, stepping inside cautiously. The flickering fluorescent lights above cast an erratic glow that wavered. Hello? Jenna called out into the stillness, her voice echoing against the cracked walls. She felt absurd, calling for help in this deserted shell, but the weight of the storm outside felt less pressing than the one looming behind them. A voice hissed from within the dark recesses. Help you? Or hurt you? The words dripped with malice, sending a chill straight through Jenna's core. Who's there? Jenna's courage wavered as a silhouette stepped into view from the gloom, a tall, gaunt figure, face shadowed but eyes gleaming unnaturally. A quiet laugh echoed in the hollow space, a sound that chilled Jenna's veins. A mother and her child, how sweet. The figure stepped closer, revealing features that were too sharp, too skeletal, like the remnants of a long-abandoned nightmare. What do you want? The words tumbled out, barely above a whisper, but she was unwilling to show fear. Every instinct screamed that they had to escape, but Lila squeezed her hand tighter, paralyzed. Want? It rasped mockingly. So many desires. Let us explore yours, shall we? With a flick of its wrist, shadows danced in the corners, threatening to stretch towards them and draw them in. Panic surged within Jenna. Everything about this place screamed danger, and yet, the whispers of the wind curled around her once more, insisting that here, perhaps, lay the answer she sought. Run! She yelled suddenly, lunging toward the door just as the figure advanced, granting their fears life. She burst through the exit, pulling Lila behind her, just as the gas station doors slammed shut with a resounding finality. They stumbled back into the downpour, breathless and terrified. The road ahead blurred into a dizzying line of shadow and rain. What now, Mommy? Lila's voice pulled at her heartstrings, raw with anxiety. Around them, the storm raged, shadows twisted in the distance. Something sinister waited, watching how they would choose to move next, either deeper into the darkness, or toward the looming threat they barely understood. Tremors coursed through Jenna as she realized the truth. They might never find safety, not as long as that figure followed. But it was out there, spreading through the night, waiting for her next decision. Keep running, Jenna urged, every instinct telling her to flee. But would the road she chose lead them to a darker fate? Or would they find a way to extinguish the shadows haunting their steps? The chilling realization clutched at her chest. As long as they were together, they were both prey. Eyes watched them, the night alive with whispers, and something was about to awaken. The rain lashed at them like 1,000 icy needles, piercing through their fragile resolve. Jenna gripped Lila's hand, her heart racing as they plunged deeper into the tangled curtain of trees. Every branch seemed to reach out, clawing at them, desperately trying to ensnare their retreat. Shadows skittered between the trunks, whispering secrets Jenna dared not comprehend. Mommy! Lila pulled closer, her small frame trembling against the tempest. Sure, it's okay, Jenna whispered, but the words felt hollow, echoing back as lies. Dread surged like a wave through her, tightening around her chest. She could feel the weight of unseen eyes following them, probing, content to watch their suffering unfold. A flicker of movement caught Jenna's eye, a figure darting between the trees, its shape indistinct but undeniably there. The moist air thickened with the scent of damp earth and decay. An instinct: run. Faster, she urged, propelling Lila forward. The ground sloped downward, slick with mud, and Jenna almost lost her footing. They stumbled, gasping for breath, the night closing in like a predator. "Mommy, wait!" Lila gasped, her voice small against the chaos. "I can't!" Jenna pressed forward, fighting against the pull of fear anchoring her, dragging them both back like quicksand. The shadows thickened around them. It felt like the very trees were alive with malice, whispering threats only she could hear. Then, abruptly, they broke through the oppressive darkness into a clearing. The rain softened, a sickly tranquility settling. In the center stood an old-world gazebo, its paint peeling, wood decayed, a remnant of forgotten times, yet somehow intact amid the torment. It seemed like a refuge, but Jenna's instincts screamed otherwise. "Is it safe?" Lila's voice trembled, mirroring her mother's jitters. "Let us just take a look," Jenna said, forcing conviction into her wavering tone. They crept toward the gazebo, the rotting wood creaking underfoot with each cautious step. Inside, the floorboards were slick and uneven. The air was thick with an unnatural stillness, a silence that felt suffocating. "I don't like this, Mommy," Lila whispered, looking back toward the tree line. "I know." Jenna's voice shook. "But we need to catch our breath." Just as they settled onto the hard, damp ground, a low growl rumbled from outside. It chilled the very marrow in her bones. Jenna's heart raced, pounding like a drum. "Did you hear that?" Lila's eyes widened, glistening with tears. "Stay quiet," Jenna hissed, their whispered breaths mingling with the hushed rustle of the rain. They leaned closer together, pressed against one another, a fragile barrier against the darkness encroaching. The growl echoed again, a low, guttural sound that seemed to resonate through the earth and shake the nearby trees. Jenna strained to listen, inching closer to the edge of the gazebo, her heart hammering. A flash of movement caught her eye, a pair of shimmering eyes emerged from the shadows, locking onto her with terrifying intensity. Panic surged through her veins as a monstrous figure stepped into the clearing, lit by a streak of lightning. It was tall, impossibly gaunt, with elongated limbs and a toothy grin that promised nothing but despair. "Run," Jenna breathed, her voice barely a whisper as she shielded Lila with her body. But before they could stand, the figure was upon them, the darkness spilling forth like fog, consuming the world around them. A piercing shriek shattered the air, echoing into the night as Jenna felt the ground slip beneath her. "Mommy!" Lila screamed, and in that instant the world spiraled away from her, blurring into chaos. Jenna's grasp loosened, and cold fear paralyzed her. The last thing she saw was the shimmering eyes hunger in their depths as everything faded into a hellish abyss. Somewhere in the dark, echoes of desolate laughter bounced off the trees, swirling in the storm like a living nightmare. In the distance, a new sound emerged, a soft, disembodied whisper. The night is just beginning. What new horrors awaited them in this twisted game of survival? And would Lila's small form slip from her grasp forever? Jenna's body felt weightless, floating in darkness, yet heavy in dread. Distant voices swirled around her, indistinct, like echoes from a long-lost conversation. Panic hit her stomach like a fist as memories clawed at her mind, the growl, the eyes, Lila's scream. "Lila!" The name tore from her lips, a wild gasp in the silence. But silence swallowed it whole. No answer. Slowly, the darkness began to unravel, revealing patches of twisted reality. She was not on solid ground but suspended in a haze, an endless void of soundless terror. Jenna tried to stand, to find her daughter, but a vice-like grip held her down. She could barely move, struggling against something unseen, a weight pressing on her chest. Images flickered like old film. She saw the gazebo, its crooked structure framed by the probing fingers of the storm. "Let me go!" she shouted, her voice echoed back as if the void relished her despair. With a surge of adrenaline, she forced herself upright. The ground was uneven, every step a challenge. A faint glow flickered in the distance. Summoning her strength, she stumbled towards it, hoping against hope that Lila was there. Lila! Each call felt weaker, the air thickening, trying to choke her. Jenna's breath quickened, panic flooding her veins. A heavy miasma cloaked her vision, growing thicker with each passing moment. But with every step, the glow brightened. Then she remembered the laughter, a chilling, sinister sound that cut through the darkness. "Who's there?" she gasped, her throat dry and raw. Suddenly, the light flickered out, engulfing her in darkness once more. The growl returned not from a distance but right beside her. She froze, paralyzed by fear. "Your heart is so sweet," a voice slithered through the shadows, smooth and malevolent. It seemed to curl around her, tightening like a noose. "Where is my daughter?" Jenna gritted her teeth, rage cutting through the fear. "Ah, the little one," the voice chuckled softly, dripping with mockery. "In a place far away. But to find her, you must give yourself to the night." "Never!" she screamed, her voice echoing in a defiant rage. The laughter returned, bounding off unseen walls, mocking her futile defiance. "Then she will be lost in the crevices of night forever." Jenna's heart raced, desperation clawing at her chest. "What do you want? What is it that people desire most?" it hissed, torment wrapped in honey tones. "What do you sacrifice for love? The choice is yours." Jenna stumbled backward, bumping into something solid, a wall. She could feel it pulsating, alive, as terror moored her feet in place. "I wouldn't sacrifice anyone," she half sobbed, half yelled. "Then let the game begin," the voice whispered, weaving a spell of dark promises. Reality shifted like sand beneath her feet. Her world twisted and warped, pulling her apart. She felt her fingers grip the rough surface, fighting against the dark tide as it threatened to pull her under. The glow pulsed again, just ahead, Lila's voice, faint and trembling. "Mommy? Lila!" Jenna staggered forward, hope igniting within her. "Find me," the voice slipped through the shadows, sweet yet sinister. Without warning, the ground crumbled beneath her, and Jenna fell, tumbling into an abyss of laughter, shadows, and despair. She clawed at the void, the fading light of her daughter slipping through her fingers, and then, everything went dark. But then something shifted. Was it a breeze? A whisper? "Help, Mommy!" The echo wrapped around her, igniting a flicker of life in her weary soul. With renewed resolve, she fought against the pitch-black void, determined to find Lila, to shatter whatever nightmare held them captive. "Hold on, honey! I'm coming!" Would she navigate through the shifting nightmares to find her daughter? Or would she too be lost to the grasp of the merciless night? The chilling laughter returned, taunting her with a promise of terror yet to unfold. Jenna's heart pounded in her chest, each beat syncopated with the distant echo of Lila's voice, tethering her to the jagged edges of her reality. The laughter faded momentarily, but the shadows shifted restlessly around her. She was not just lost, she was hunted. The ground suddenly solidified beneath her, a texture like cracked concrete. The air grew colder, whispering secrets, and her breath fogged in front of her. She pressed forward, teeth gritted, memory of Lila's warmth anchoring her resolve. "Mommy!" The call came again, tinged with fear that pierced through Jenna like ice. She moved toward it, but the path twisted and turned, as if the darkness was alive and shifting with malice. Shapes darted just beyond her vision, reminders that she was not alone. Shadows with mocking faces grinned at her from the periphery, their eyes glinting with malevolence. "Find me!" Lila's voice was a ghostly thread, pulling her deeper into the consuming void. "Where are you?" Jenna shouted, desperation coating her voice. "I'm coming! Just hold on!" The laughter returned, a sickening crescendo that filled the empty space, wrapping around her like tentacles. "You're sweet little Lila," the voice crooned, dripping with sickly sweetness. "Hiding from the monster just as you are." Jenna felt the walls of the void pulse, vibrating around her. "You're lying!" she screamed, rage igniting anew, driving her to push past the fear. Every flicker of light seemed to flicker out around her, plunging her back into the depths of darkness. Then, she heard it, a soft rustle, almost human, following in her wake. Something was trailing her, skimming the edge of her perception. Her skin prickled, she turned sharply, but found empty shadows. "Mommy, help!" The whisper came again, closer now, but thrumming with an unnatural timbre. It was not just Lila's voice, it was twisted, distorted. Jenna swallowed hard, heart racing, and pressed forward through the cold silence. "Lila, where are you?" she called, fear clawing at her throat. "Please, answer me." Then, like a revelation, she spotted a flicker of light ahead, red, like a dying ember. Her feet moved instinctively. As she approached, the brightness revealed itself to be a grotesque barrier, swarming with shadowy figures. They spoke in hushed tones, their faces obscured but their deeds clear. They were waiting, watching, their intentions dark as the abyss surrounding her. "What do you want?" Jenna's voice was trembling, but she pulled her shoulders back. She had to break through, to reach her daughter. "Sacrifice," they whispered in unison, the words slithering into her brain. "What will you give for your child?" A memory flooded back, Lila's laughter, the warmth of her tiny hands in hers, the promise of love. But that love felt distant now, dulled by the weight of fear. "Anything!" Jenna shouted, panic drawing her lips tight. "I'll do anything!" With every declaration, the shadows shifted, drawing closer, their whispers becoming a cacophony of haunting promises and sinister laughter. "Anything you say?" The voice crept back, playfully questioning. "Then you shall play our game." The light flickered again, blindingly bright this time, illuminating, for just a moment, the faces of the creatures surrounding her, twisted, tortured, a parade of despair. A scream built up in Jenna's chest, but the sounds died in her throat. The warmth of the light swallowed her whole, unveiling a labyrinthine corridor, a nightmare stretching endlessly. And at the end, she could see the silhouette of a figure. It was small, fragile, echoing her heart's longing. "Lila?" But as she reached out, the abyss yawned wide, trembling as if anticipating some great feast. "Enter, if you dare," the night murmured. "Will you play?" Jenna's heart thrummed, caught between thoughts of her daughter and the consuming dread around her. What would she sacrifice next? Would she choose the light, or would the shadows pull her further into despair? The darkness chuckled, hungry for her decision, and the path ahead twisted into confusion. "Lila!" she cried out, desperately reaching for that glimmer of hope before. The dark swallowed her entirely. What haunting game awaited her now? The bright light faded as quickly as it appeared, leaving Jenna in a nebulous twilight. The corridor around her crumbled under her uncertain feet, walls seemed to quiver with the weight of unseen horrors. She heard whispers threading through the air, fragments of conversations, laughter, cries of despair. Each sound clawed at her, dragging her backward into memories she hoped to forget. "Come play with us," a taunting voice echoed, teasing, tantalizing. "There are games to be played, oh so many games!" Panic gripped Jenna's throat. "Let me through!" she shouted, her voice cracking. "I have to find my daughter!" The shadows coalesced, thickening around her like smoke, and she felt their presence crawling against her skin. A wave of icy dread crashed over her as she realized they were not just spectators. They were participants, eager to see how far she would go, how much she would surrender. "Your love is the key," they hissed, their eyes glinting like shards of glass. "What would you sacrifice to see her again?" Jenna's heart raced. Memories of Lila flooded back, dancing in the living room, baking cookies on a rainy day, stories whispered under blankets. And now, here she was in this twisted arena, each fragment a reminder of the warmth and safety that seemed forever out of reach. "What do I have to do?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Face your fears, relive your failures," they chanted, voices overlapping like a dark symphony. The corridor began to expand, the air thick with the scent of decay. Shapes morphed around her, forming familiar faces, friends, family, people to whom she had once held closeness. But now, their expressions twisted into grotesque masks, distorted versions of their true selves. "See how they laugh?" a voice crooned softly. "See how they mock? This is what you have made of them." Jenna staggered back, heart pounding as their laughter echoed through the corridor. "No! Stop it!" You're not real! She cried, but it was no use. The shadows enveloped her, feeding off her fear, twisting her memories into nightmares. Face the truth, Jenna, you let them go. You let her go. The shadows began to shift again, pulling her deeper into their realm. A door appeared at the end of the corridor, flickering ominously. It was flanked by shadows. Figures leaned against the walls with eyes wide and hollow. They beckoned her closer, the door creaking open ever so slightly, revealing yet another darkness inside. "What's behind the door?" she asked, her voice shaking with anticipation and dread. "A choice," they whispered, curling around her. "Another game to play for your daughter." She hesitated. Every instinct told her to retreat, but Lila's face shone in her mind, the innocent joy in her eyes, the way she would smile just because. Jenna moved toward the door, heart in her throat, fingers brushing against the cold surface. The door swung open violently, revealing a room suffocated in shadow, pulsating and alive with an energy she couldn't name. Shapes danced within, beckoning her to step further. The air crackled with tension, thick with the scent of despair. "Come play, Jenna," the shadows teased, swarming around her. "Face your darkest fears or be consumed." Jenna took a deep breath, the weight of her decision heavy on her chest. She was done running. If the shadows wanted a game, she would play. But what new horrors would she face to save her little girl? With trembling resolve, Jenna stepped over the threshold, plunging into still deeper darkness. What awaited her behind those shadows? A truth she never wished to confront, or a chance at redemption she desperately needed. The air shifted as Jenna stepped inside, heavy and oppressive, wrapping around her like a wet blanket. Shadows writhed and twisted, the dark room flickering with a faint, sickly glow. A sense of foreboding wormed its way into her bones. "What do I have to face?" she whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. Suddenly, the shadows lunged forward, and a flicker of movement caught her eye. Figures emerged, vague shapes slowly coming into focus. They were the faces she loved, twisted reflections of memories lodged deep in her heart. Lila's bright smile, her husband's proud grin, friends laughing, but all warped in grotesque distortion. Their expressions were haunted, eyes hollowed, mouths stretched into unnatural shapes. "Jenna, why did you leave us?" a voice hissed, a taunt dripping with betrayal. "No! I didn't leave. I tried." Her voice broke, trembling against the weight of their accusation. "Did you really try?" they echoed, meltdowns in their phrasing. "Or were you too busy chasing shadows?" Panic spread through her, her heart racing like a wild animal. "Stop! You're not real!" she screamed, but it was too late. The shadows surged forward, engulfing her, their laughter a cacophony of sadness and rage. "Face your recklessness, Jenna!" Another shadow howled, taking form as a dark silhouette of her past choices. "This is your reckoning." The walls began to pulse, vibrating with an agonizing rhythm. Jenna stumbled backward, looking for a way out, but every direction seemed to implode into darkness. Shapes morphed into memories, memories twisted into nightmares. She had to fight back. "Sacrifice," the voice crooned. "Name singed with guilt and grief, what will you offer?" The shadows transformed, clawing at her, overwhelming her senses with their stench of despair. She froze, piecing together the fragments of her life that had splintered apart since Lila's disappearance. She felt their eyes probing, devouring her resolve. "Your regrets are not hidden," they whispered, intertwining around her. "They are the keys to your heart, to the darkness you face." Her throat tightened, an intense heat spread through her. Memories flooded back, her selfishness during Lila's birthdays, missed moments and careless words. Sobs threatened to spill from her lips as the reality settled in. "What you done, it has made you who you are," another shadow smirked, a twisted remnant of Lila's innocent laughter. "Would you rather have it all back or let it all go?" The shadows circled her, drawing nearer, their whispers a grotesque lullaby echoing through the charged silence. In a moment of clarity, a thought pierced through the terror. "I would give anything!" she cried out, voice shaky but fierce. "Anything?" they retorted, amused. "Then let us begin." Suddenly, A fissure appeared in the floor, splintering like cracked ice beneath her feet. Jenna felt the pull of its darkness beckoning her forward, the will to save what remained of her daughter fighting against the panic. "Jump!" a voice commanded, harsh and desperate. Without thinking, Jenna leaped into the void. As she fell, she felt the icy grip of despair reaching up, grabbing at her ankles, desperately trying to pull her back into the darkness. It whispered secrets of her deepest failures, the weight of her fears enveloping her whole. Then she hit solid ground, and the darkness receded, revealing another corridor, eerily lit. The air felt thicker here, more charged, unnatural. She steadied herself, breath hitching in her throat. This place was a maze of torment and temptation, darker than before, but she could feel Lila's presence flickering just out of reach. "Jenna," a tiny voice called, echoing faintly through the shadows, the sweet sound of hope piercing through the fear. Heart pounding, Jenna rushed forward, desperate to find the source. "Lila!" she shouted, the name tearing through the silence like a wake-up call. But as the echoes faded, the shadows shifted again, forming once more into familiar faces, this time devoid of laughter. They stared at her blankly, and a new dread filled her heart. "Playtime's not over," they whispered in unison, their eyes alight with hunger. Panicking, Jenna pressed on, but the shadowy figures began to close in from all sides. What lay at the end of this journey? Would she find Lila, or fall victim to the very horrors she had created? She ran, the uncertainty clawing at her. Each pulse of her heart echoed hauntingly in the suffocating dark. Yet the deeper she went, the more fear-deepening questions arose. What if she wasn't the only player in this deadly game? The shadows trembled with anticipation as she raced down the corridor. What awaited her ahead? The truth she sought, or the consequence of her darkest sacrifices? Jenna moved through the corridor, the shadows pressed in, seeking to trap her, to drown her in their darkness. But sheer determination drove her forward. "Lila!" she cried again, fueled by a fierce love that refused to let go. The maze of memories twisted uncomfortably, each turn an echo of past failures. Faces that had once graced her life now morphed into grotesque parodies, breeding a torment she had never expected. "You left us, Jenna," they whispered hauntingly, shadows swirling around her. "You pushed away those who loved you." "No!" She gritted her teeth, shaking her head as if to cast away the voices, their remnants clawing pitifully for her attention. "I never wanted this." And then she saw it again, a glimmering strip of light ahead, pulsing like a heartbeat. It was as far as it had been before. "I'll find you, Lila!" Jenna whispered fiercely and pushed herself harder, every ounce of willpower surging through her veins. As she reached the light, Jenna burst through into an expansive, ethereal space. It felt like being outside again, yet it was trapped somewhere between reality and nightmare. The air was thick with moisture, glowing unpredictably, and the long grass swayed in echoing whispers. And then she saw her Lila, standing a few paces away, her back turned, facing something unseen. "Lila!" The urgency in Jenna's voice echoed with desperation, a primal instinct drawing her toward her daughter. "Mommy?" The little girl's voice was faint, lost amid the overwhelming sensations around them. But that single word felt like a last raindrop before a drought. It was her. It was real. "Keep coming, honey! Just a little bit more!" Jenna shouted, fighting through the darkening fog that tried to grab at her, dragging her back into despair. Lila turned, a look of uncertainty in her eyes, as the shadows slinked closer, whispering threats in a tangled web of dread. An icy gust swirled around Jenna, making her gasp as it stung against her skin. She took a step forward. "Don't worry, I'm here," she urged, desperately wanting to bridge the distance. It felt like something was slowly tightening around Lila, squeezing the warmth from her until she faded further from reach. "Mommy!" Lila shouted again, fear sparking in her voice. "Help me!" With a battle cry that surged from the depths of her soul, Jenna dashed forward. But the moment she did, the shadows lunged, reforming into monstrous beings eager to snatch Lila away. Jenna's heart sank, but fear fueled her resolve. "Get away from her!" she demanded, launching herself forward. The shadows recoiled, their snarls heated with malice. And Jenna felt it then, a vibrant pulse of energy emanating from her connection with Lila. "Your power!" an unseen voice growled, "it can't break our hold. The darkness thrives on your grief." But Jenna wouldn't be defeated. She could feel her love anchoring her like a lighthouse in the storm. "I choose love!" she shouted defiantly to the void. "I choose to fight for my daughter." With that, she plunged her arms forward, as if reaching through the encroaching shadows. As Lila looked back, the flicker of belief ignited a fire in Jenna. The room quaked, shadows began to dim, and their twisted carriages of despair trembled in uncertain fear. The malevolent figures twisted into silhouettes, wavering against the force radiating from the bond between mother and daughter. Suddenly, the shadows released a cacophony of shrieks that drowned every whisper, each one a reminder of how they feasted on fear. The spectral forms began to fray around the edges, losing their grip on reality as the bond between Jenna and Lila blazed bright, illuminating the haze around them. "Mommy!" Lila cried, her small arms reaching. "Take me with you!" The shadows fumed and roared. "You can't escape! Your time is not yet over!" But Jenna wouldn't back down. She lunged forward, grasping Lila's hand. "We're leaving! You're not taking her!" Together, they pulled against the darkness. The world began to shake, screams faded into silence, and a blinding light enveloped them both. In one final surge, the darkness shattered like glass, turning to smoke and evaporating into the air. Light streamed down, warm and healing. As Jenna and Lila emerged from the wreckage of shadows, they found themselves in the familiar confines of their own living room. The storm outside quieted, the air now fresh and tinged with hope. "Mommy!" Lila laughed, joy spilling from her like rays of sunshine. "We're home." "Yes, we are," Jenna replied, wrapping her arms around her daughter, holding her as tightly as she could. "I will never let you go again." The shadows were gone, but Jenna knew they could return. Would she become complacent? She wouldn't. Each midnight would be a reminder, and each whisper of wind would serve as vigilance. But for now, the darkness retreated, not vanquished, but cloaked in the depths of the forgotten. Moments passed, serenity wrapping them in a comforting embrace. And so they stood, a mother and daughter bonded by love, tempered by fear, and guarded by the resolve to never let the shadows linger too long again. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, knowing their greatest strength was found within each other. Jenna kissed Lila's forehead, her heart finally at peace. But as they looked out into the night, the stars flickered ominously, and from the shadows of Willow Creek, a familiar laugh echoed softly, an unsettling reminder that darkness and light are always intertwined. If you enjoyed this journey and want to dive into more chilling tales, you need to subscribe now. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these stories. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how this all unfolded. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference.